everyone, and welcome back to Breaktime Conversations, a YouTube channel where I have conversations around education. I have been a teacher all my life, and along my journey, I have met and continue to meet so many interesting and inspiring people. And so I decided to document my conversations with them here so that you too can hear their stories and the amazing work that they do. I'm here today with Divya Dubey. She's a friend and a classmate. We did our master's in special and inclusive education together. And Divya has about a decade and a half of experience in special education, but she was originally an MBA graduate and she worked in the corporate field briefly before changing her field. And she has lived and worked in different cities such as Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, and Kolkata. And she has just proudly completed her PhD from the University of Northampton. And all of us classmates are so proud of Divya. Divya, welcome and thank you for being here, Divya.
Thank you. Thank you, Anupa. It's such a pleasure talking to you always, and thanks for having me here.
Yes, I know we've been wanting to do this for so long, and I'm so glad that we're finally doing it. So, Divya, I just want to know that, there's a lot of talk about inclusive education these days. When we were doing it, I don't think not many people knew it, and now suddenly everyone's talking about it. All schools are trying to become inclusive schools. So, can you just share your views on this, and what do you think about it, and things like that?
Yeah, it is definitely heartening to note that a lot of schools have woken up to the realization that, not just by legislation, but even otherwise, inclusive education is the need of the hour. Because, it's not just about, Anupa, the so-called, special children, like, those who have more severe and profound disabilities. That is what was the knowledge until now. But I think gradually this realization is coming in that it's about diverse learners. It's still, it's a very gradual process, a shift that is happening. But I think schools need to realize, and they are gradually realizing, that it's about all the children in the class. Because, as you know, all children in a class are different. It's not just about those who are so-called diagnosed, but a child may have some other need, or maybe going through a rough patch. So for that period of time, that child has a special need, isn't it? Or has an additional need. So that way, yeah, gradually schools are waking up, but really there is a long way to go, is what I can say. It's
Yeah,
not
I love that. I love how you say that it's about all the children in the class. It's about diverse learners. I love that.
that's the thing, that is, I keep speaking about it because, how much ever you speak, it's still not enough, because everybody needs to realize that it's not just about a handful of children who are diagnosed, it's about every learner in the class, because
Yeah.
everyone is different and
Yeah,
everyone's.
I think teachers also need to realize that, because I think teachers' mindset is like, especially with the school that I'm working with now, when they think inclusive school, they think of special children and they think, oh, they
Yeah,
will disturb the class. We don't have this, we don't have that. So
absolutely.
I really love that you have said that it's about all children in the class. I know I'm harping on and on about that, but that's great. So Divya, you're in Kolkata right now, what's the scene of inclusive education there?
Um, See, there are schools again. I have worked in different cities across India. I wouldn't like to let me not limit this discussion to Calcutta. Calcutta is also waking up to the realization of, inclusion, so called, and we do have schools who take special children, or children with special needs. I shouldn't say special children. And there are quite a few inclusive schools. It's not that, but still, I think somewhere when it comes to the awareness of parents and society as large, there is still a lot of stigma and taboo that we face, because when we tell parents, when we identify and we break the news to them, there is a lot of denial, there is a lot of resistance to accept. And then they'll say that, oh, but, what will I go back and tell my my parents, they will not agree, ma'am, to this thing. But no, my child doesn't have a problem. So many things come up. So that way, I think probably because, again, I don't want to sound these days, anything you say can be turned against you, and you have to be so careful. So I don't want to say as a city that there's something lacking, but definitely I think other metros, maybe in terms of awareness in general, they may be a little ahead. is what I would like to say very safely.
Oh,
Uh,
nice. Okay, that's nice to know. I saw that your topic, your research topic was on the professional development needs, right?
Absolutely. Right.
So why don't you tell us more about that and what you found out? What were your findings?
Okay. All right. So I've been speaking about my research a lot. So, but it is very, very relevant because, as you just mentioned, when we talk about inclusive education, ultimately it is the mainstream teachers, right, who are the ones who are the last mile soldiers who take it to the class, right? So they are the ones, who really need to understand this concept of inclusion and not just understand it, Anupa. It's very easy for us as outsiders to say that teachers are not doing this and teachers don't have the right attitudes and teachers don't want to do. It's not that. It's absolutely not that. And being an insider from the system, having friends who are teachers, having seen them, and as a special needs coordinator, you know and in this entire journey, I have not found a lot of difference between the cities or the schools I have worked, because yes, there will be a handful of teachers who are resistant. There will be a few teachers who do not have the right attitudes, but then there are also a lot of teachers who want to do, who want to learn, and who are actually doing whatever they can. But the reality of the fact is, and even those who are having somewhat negative attitudes, I would not pinpoint it to something within themselves, but maybe just a lack of awareness and a lack of training, right? And so there are too many thoughts coming in my mind, so before I forget. And also, it's it's not about just inclusion. As a teacher these days, there are n number of responsibilities placed on them, so they have so much of work pressure that they actually sometimes don't have the time, you know but having said all of that, if a teacher wants, there is a lot that he or she can do. So the professional development needs in my research, they pertain to various sub themes that came up. So one was about the knowledge and skills about the kind of students that you can find in a mainstream school. Then identifying them, differentiated instruction, universal design of learning. They were not at all aware of UDL, which is a concept which is widely used elsewhere in the world. So they really needed that kind of training. Plus, they had curriculum related pressures, syllabus completion. They're being constantly observed. They are getting their, appraisals and things like that. They don't have time. So there, especially in senior classes, because my research pertained to teachers who taught in the upper primary and secondary level, this time and pressure of completion of syllabus became major factors. Not so much in the, junior classes, I think, but then it is a genuine problem. And all said and done, our curriculum is very inflexible, right? So even if a child has learning difficulties or whatever, the child may be bright and everything, but for that particular child who takes more time to learn things, who will take more times to master the concept, how is it fair to do the same syllabus in the same time when an average learner does it? So there are inherent, these kind of inconsistencies in the system which sometimes become barriers. So yeah, we
Mhm.
can.
So how do we overcome this?
I don't know. There are no easy answers to that, but definitely what I've been speaking about a lot is about teacher training and professional development. So teachers must, get that support from the management. That is one thing. Supportive management is absolutely essential for any inclusion to happen, because it all trickles down from there. You see it. So a principal who understands that it is necessary will accordingly make time for teachers. A little bit of that spare time where if she wants, she can sit with two, three children who need that extra help one on one. A mainstream teacher. I'm not talking about children being pulled out and sitting with the special eds. That's not the kind of thing I'm speaking about. So top management support is a must. Then ongoing training, professional development, which is geared towards inclusion, not just any training. All schools have trainings. These days, there is no school which doesn't have any training program, but they are all very ad hoc. The training programs may be excellent in themselves, but are they geared towards inclusion? Unfortunately, not. I haven't personally come across any school which has a comprehensive training program which is geared towards inclusion, which has different modules, which are made keeping the kind of things that teachers need to learn. So that needs to be in place. Understanding different methods of reaching out, not just being able to identify the children. Then what do they do in the classroom? That is what most teachers struggled, and also mentioned in my study that, okay, even if you tell me that this child is learning disability, or this child is dyscalculia, or this child is something else. So in a class of 30 or 40, how am I as a teacher supposed to help? Or what am I supposed to do? Because I said that, suppose I'm sitting and explaining, there's a child who doesn't understand, and I keep repeating twice or thrice, then what happens to the rest of the class? They start becoming restless, and that becomes a behavioral issue. Classroom management becomes a challenge. So there are a lot of things that need to be done. Um, and I think
Does
also a lot
it
of,
feel overwhelming sometimes when you think of all that needs to
it
be
does.
done? Like
Yeah.
right now, I'm feeling overwhelmed just listening to you, and like,
Sorry
no, no,
if I
no,
gave that impression. But
no,
yeah,
no, no.
I'm thinking about all those voices are coming back, and this is something I keep talking
Ah,
about and I'm very passionate about. But it is something I think we need to address together. And
yeah,
from the beginning, even in our teacher training courses, the like the B.Ed courses and other things,
yes.
pre-teaching, that itself needs to be changed. Include, as of now, it's just like a separate subject. It's a optional subject that teachers choose if they want to. It cannot be that. It has to be a part of everything that they learn. So
Hmm.
unless that change happens there, and the existing teachers who are already in the system, they also have to be trained. So yes, in this area there is a lot of work to be done, but I don't want to sound all negative and
So I
pessimistic.
just want to go back to something that you said about, the training programs in schools are sometimes a bit
Yeah.
ad hoc and they're not geared towards inclusive education. So would you
Mhm.
suggest that that a school has like a separate, like, in addition to their other training programs, should there be something else on inclusive education, or can it be interspersed, like, to have include topics of inclusion in the program? What do you suggest?
Yeah. So, see, that's a difficult question to answer because each school has its own, way. So there are some schools who have completely outsourced their training programs to a certain agency. There are schools who have ad hoc programs. So I cannot give a generalized answer, but this inclusive education, the part about inclusion, that has to be done, that has to be done. And I think it is possible to integrate other aspects as well, depending on what that school is looking for. But I think one standard module which has, 3, 4, depending on twice a year or once a year, that definitely has to be taught, irrespective of the subject or the level the teacher teaches. That should be a standardized program. And then it can be integrated with more subject specific information. No? So, yeah, because like
Hmm.
teachers teaching senior school would need to know about the board concessions, which the junior
Yeah.
school teachers might. So,
Yes.
that kind of education will have to be built into it. But there should be a certain basic that we say the core of inclusive philosophy that everybody must know. That
Mm.
I think is very essential. That
Yeah,
is.
that's a good thought, and that's a good thing to start with. So there is hope.
There is hope for sure. A lot of things are happening. The government has also made so many policies. It is just about the implementation. And
Correct.
honestly speaking, it's not that teachers don't do anything. Even right now, teachers are practicing, inclusion in their own ways. They are doing something which might be something like differentiated instruction that we call it, without having the knowledge that this is what it's called, right? So may not have the awareness of the terminology, but it's not that they're not doing anything. So it just has to be more streamlined. They have to be given a lot of knowledge and skills, updated with the latest technologies that are coming up, how to use technology in the classroom. And just that mindset change is very important. That I think it starts from there, because a teacher who wants to do it, I'm sure will find a way, because teachers are very creative and ingenious. So it's not
More
that
and more,
they
I've
can't.
been realizing in every aspect of life that mindset is so important,
That's
no?
something I also personally believe in. I think that's why it's coming across so strongly, because something I've seen and I personally believe in.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, like, I often speak to teachers, and ask them, is this a job that you're doing, or is this something that you really want to do? Because that also has to do with your mindset. No, if it's
Correct.
just a job, you're
Correct.
just gonna do it without any feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So,
basic minimum only. You don't go an extra mile if you think of it as just a
yeah,
job. And the same thing
absolutely.
about children with special needs. If you think of it as not my responsibility, I'm not trained, I don't know. So how can I
Mm,
do it? everything is the special educators or special needs department's responsibility, then that mindset also reflects.
Yeah.
Whereas if you take ownership of the child and you feel that, okay, let me also ask them, let me also see what I can do, let me try this strategy. If this is not working, let me try something else. If you have that mindset, you will definitely learn and you will find a way. Because
Yeah.
each child is different. Even as a special educator, I don't have answers to all the questions that this child, okay, you do X, Y, Z thing. Some other child, you do this. It's sometimes it's a
Right.
trial and error. You see what works with this child, what works with some other child might be different.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah.
like, going back to what you said, it's about all children. Nowadays, I think every child just learns so differently. It's not like how it used to be. It doesn't necessarily have to be that that child has a special need or anything, but it's just that every child is so different these days.
Absolutely.
So, Divya,
So,
it has been so wonderful, so insightful. You have given me so much to think about because I'm also involved with teachers and training them and things like that. So I really need to put my thinking hat on and make a proper plan. But what advice would you give to an inclusive school? Like there are so many of our schools, even though I'm a special educator, currently I'm in a school that is just beginning the journey of inclusive education. So, what
mhm.
advice would you have to people who are just, starting the journey?
Okay. As schools, you mean, or
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, for the school. Yeah.
So from the beginning, you have to very clearly communicate the philosophy of the school, the ethos of the school, that we believe that each child's learning is important, each child is important, and it is all right. All children will not learn at the same pace, so you don't need to panic. At the same time, you should not report or not bring it to light. So be very observant of your children. In general, create an atmosphere of inclusion in the school. And it comes from the teacher, believe me. If there's a child in the class who behaves slightly differently or looks a little different, the other children in the class, who believe it or not, will emulate what the teacher is doing. The way the teacher is handling it automatically transfers to the rest of the class, right? So that has to trickle down to the teachers. What is the philosophy of the school? That everybody is different. Even as teachers, we are all different, right? We all don't dress up the same way. We all don't think the same way. We all don't learn the same way. So they have to accept that as part of reality. you know that is most important. And then building a lot of awareness through these, through some workshops, or they can probably take up some trainings themselves, including the parents, including the staff. Every member of the school must be sensitized. That sensitization is very important, I think. And catching them earlier, no, but that makes a huge difference, because I look after middle school also, I look after pre-primary also. A lot of times when parents have not, either the child has not been identified, or identified and the parents have not been, very open to the idea of providing support, they come up to middle school with such huge gaps. And then at that level, it becomes very difficult, because do you teach the content, or then do you start with remediation, or what do you do? So the earlier you catch them, and I have seen miraculous changes also in children when we have caught them early. So the earlier we catch them, the earlier we are able to provide support, you see the changes. Then that struggle, the child doesn't have to go through that struggle, including the parent. They may be very resistant initially, but once they understand that you are on their side, you're not trying to blame them, you're not trying to get the child out of the school. That is also a fear.
Yeah.
Then they usually open up, I've seen, and then they are more receptive. And that is when I think it's best when we are, at the same page with the parents, because parents are very important stakeholders. We cannot ignore them, cannot ignore their voices.
Yeah. And to imagine what they are going through, right? I mean,
Absolutely. So we have to be empathetic. We can't just say that, oh, these are very difficult parents, or these parents don't listen. You have to put yourself in their shoes also to understand. It's not
mm,
easy.
yeah.
It's not easy.
Divya, thank
Yeah.
you so much. It has been insightful, like I said. And thank you for sharing your thoughts and some of your findings from your research. And I hope that we all can implement everything that we heard today. And thank you so much and all the best.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And I think I've spoken too much. I don't know how much sense it's made, but
No, no.
yeah, no.
You made
Happy,
a
and
lot of sense. You made a lot of sense. Thanks, Divya.
thank you. Thanks a lot. See you.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.